This is Anthony G. You're watching P3 on Rise Above TV.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. You're watching P3, the place where we feature individuals who tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and today I am super thrilled to be with the awesome Anthony G. We connected on social media. You can find him under True Diamond Heart, and he's all about sharing information and ways of living, the philosophies on life that are going to allow us to tap deeper into what love actually is. And when I started watching some of this stuff, I was like, this is a person that I feel would have some valuable things to say about power, passion, and purpose. And I'm excited to sit and talk with them today. So thank you so much for being with us, Anthony.
Hey, Jane. Dog's here too. You hear
Oh,
her?
nice.
Yeah. So, Janie, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, for sure. What's your dog's name?
My dog's name is Nova.
Oh, really? You know what?
Yes.
I have a niece and her name is Nova. I think that's a great name. Supernova. Obviously, you're into space and stars. Maybe that's why you called your dog Nova.
It's funny you said that because when we first spoke, started speaking about physics. Remember that?
Yes.
We're talking about physics. And power, passion, and purpose. This has been ruminating for the last week in my mind. And I think more important than kind of the words is the energetics of it. And so I'm not a physicist, but what I do think I know, and it doesn't matter whether I'm actually correct or not. What matters is the energetics of what it is that I'm going to talk about is absolutely true from experience. First of all, there's energy equals matter times the speed of light squared equals mc squared. Now, I don't know what that means really, but I do know that it means that a little tiny bit of matter is a whole pile of energy. So we're step down light, right? We're like, in the beginning there was God, in the beginning was the Word, but there's light is the first thing, right?
Yeah. And you know what else is funny? It says God said, let there be light. So there's sound and light. There's these two things. But anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because the Hindus say Anam Brahma, which means the world is sound. It doesn't matter. It's a vibrational issue, right? It's a vibrational issue. But even though I'm more of a musician than I'm not visual at all, but I still feel it when it comes to meditation and stillness practice and all that stuff. I experience it much more as light for whatever reason. So if all this energy is condensed into our beings, if we're condensed energy, then the power that's available is, for our intents and purposes, infinite, right? Even when we don't get into the whole reality, the fact, which is also experiential, of God, let's call it, or creator or source or whatever it is, which is actually infinite. And we do have access to that, as you know, because you experience that probably daily or certainly with a regular. Yeah. So there's that, and then there's the idea of, in the beginning was nothing. From nothing came everything. Like the physicists at this point, the Big Bang Theory agrees with basically a lot of creation myths, wherein, in the beginning was the Word. What was before the Word? The potentiality of the Word, right? Nothing, emptiness. So from nothing comes everything. So what is it that's behind the power is nothing, is emptiness, is stillness. So to access personal power. Now, again, there's so much stuff's been going on, Jeannie. I really appreciate your inviting me here, because I don't think of things in terms of power, passion, and purpose. And it's a lovely framework. You know what I mean? Like, every time you move out of your comfort zone into a new way of seeing something, and then you bring your experience there, it kind of jangles things up.
Yes.
So I got jangled, which is great, perfect. And I started thinking about power, purpose, and passion. And one of the things that's been recurring for me is these aren't necessarily positive things. In other words, a lot of what I would call very heavy and/or dark things on this planet are full of power, passion, and purpose. The power, passion, and purpose is power over. Power over, materialistic power. It's usually got to do with sex, money, and/or attention. Those are the three big ones.
Yes.
Right?
I'm so glad that you're bringing this up. This is like season 3. Never really have we talked about the dark side of it. I mean, we might have touched on it here and there, but I really like that you're bringing the actual words to it, because yes, it is. It's like there's sex, and then there's the money part of it, and there was something else that you mentioned. Oh
Fame.
yeah, attention, like fame, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you don't have those in check, there's this world is a place of polarity. So there could
Yeah.
be like the dark and light to everything. And that's why they say with great power comes great responsibility. Because if you're not humble and you don't stay centered, and you lose sight of what this is really all about and what it's really for, then you can succumb to the dark side of the power, passion, purpose. So please elaborate. I just wanted to say a little bit about that.
That's exactly right. The thing is the way I'm experiencing it, and I think the way it is on this planet at this time, and certainly historically, what we have is a conditioning. Our conditioning is to use power, passion, and purpose in what you and I would certainly agree as a heavy or a dark way. In other words, we're trained from the beginning that you want to have status. You want people to think something about you. You want to think something about yourself. You want to gather more money and more possessions, more material things. And we know that does not ever bring us to where it is I'm going to use the word soul, but just let's say to happiness, to be simple, to happiness. You can have these people, we see them, and people that are interested in following other people's lives. You can see the people with all the stuff are not doing well in terms of their inner world. And no matter what you have in the outer world, you're stuck and living in the inner world, with the inner world. That's where it begins, happens, and ends.
Mm-hmm. It's so true.
There's only Janie. There's only Janie. The whole world is Janie. And then you flip the camera the other way, and there's only Anthony. Then you flip it that way, there's only Alex or Peter or Joanne or whoever it is, right? We're all living in these universes. And so in this universe, we want to create a place, because I know that what you mean by P3, passion, purpose, and there's so many other beautiful purpose that have been coming to me, presence. Presence is such a great P word, but things that you're feeling, that you're passionately bringing to us with your project here, P project. You're bringing this stuff to us because you feel, forgive me if I'm putting words in your mouth, and tell me if I'm, correct me. You're feeling not an excess, forgive me. What's happening is you're coming more and more into the state of love that is your true or original nature. And that nature of love is a light. Light is love. They're synonyms, the way I'm using them. And light, the nature of light is to shine. It's an expansive quality. So the reason I'm here is because of your expansion. Your experience of love is expanding and somehow came out. And of course, vibrations tend to, you're going to go like this, and there's another vibration that's similar. And your desire to expand, your need to expand is meeting my need to expand. And we're here trying to expand together into every corner of reality, realizing that what is not love is suffering. Yeah.
My God, totally. I love everything you're saying. I'm over here like, oh, just eating it up. Yes, 100%. Are you okay? I wanted to make sure you weren't stuck for a second. I was like, wait, did he get stuck? But no, I concur 100%. You didn't put anything into my mouth. You did not put words into my mouth. And I also love that you touched on the idea of like when we tap into love, like the actual organic essence and our true nature of what we are. Love naturally likes to be expressive. That's why I feel like art has to do, creatorism within art, right? We are a piece of art. Our life is a piece of art. We are curating it. And you were also saying how each of us is kind of like a little universe within their own universe, and how we can start creating an internal world, because you were talking about that inner space, and the way we feel internally is definitely going to end up impacting our external reality. And so many people really do live in a mental state and an emotional state of pain and suffering. What was sort of the moment for you that you came to see yourself like in a new way and decided to start flexing the muscles of living mindfully so that you can be in a state of presence?
Wow. I would say that's a tough one. I mean, it's the kind of thing I could talk for the 40 years it's been happening.
True
Let,
that.
You know, when I was a kid, I wrote poetry that I'm only now beginning to understand. So there's always been something there. And again, it's like the only purpose in talking about myself is to talk about what it is, what like there's nothing here that's not there. I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. There's nothing here that's not everywhere. In other words, so if I speak of myself, I'm simply speaking of the way that the gift of divinity expresses in this particular locality, which is this body here. You said this work of art. Not to say that, because as soon as I start talking about this, it starts sounding, well, you know, and this is a real spiritual trap, the trap of specialness.
Mm. Yes.
There is specialty. It's the same thing as a miracle. Either, you know, Einstein said everything's a miracle or nothing's a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
True. And look at it either way. Everything is special or nothing is special. You zoom in on the snowflake and it has this magnificent geometry and uniqueness. And then you step back a bit and it's just one of these hundreds of millions perhaps of little white things falling from the sky. So it's a matter of just perspective. So specialness, absolutely. I am brilliantly special, and at the same moment, absolutely average. As is
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
interested.
I love that you were also touching on that, because that in itself is also the paradox. That I love the snowflake analogy. It's like I use that too, also with like fingerprints. So
Yes.
we all have a fingerprint, whatever. There's like 7 billion people on the planet, and they're all fingerprints, but we still have an individuated fingerprint, but they're still all coming from a creator that created the fingerprint in the first place, and we're all one just big fingerprint.
Absolutely.
You know, so and then think about it, the fact that we even have fingerprints is pretty miraculous, right? So we could say it goes back to that special. It's if all of us have a fingerprint, we can look at the fingerprint as not special.
And,
You see,
and
you
look,
know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I agree. I agree 100%. And what brings it back to the what we were speaking about before, the fact that the fingerprint is used almost invariably for terribly nefarious and dark and sinister purposes. That's the thing. So I could tell you about, you know, the moments in my life. Maybe we'll get to them if it moves the conversation along. But I'd
Sure.
like to stay with that thing about how is it that we find power, passion, and purpose that serves us? And to say serve, let's just be straight up. Look, there's nothing wrong with being clear about the fact that my life is about me. Now, as I find out who I am, I realize that I am actually sitting over there with a bun on my hair, you know, and I'm a female sitting there watching this guy flap his gums on the TV, right? I mean, like I am every aspect of divinity when I'm clear on the essence of my being. But in this individuated form, how do I live a better life? How do I live a happy, how do I sleep better? How do I wake up without anxiety? How do I have relationships in which I feel there's a mutual nurturance? How do I feel like I'm occupying space on this earth and I belong here and I'm doing purpose? Purpose for me is purpose and passion are very synonymous for me with mission. But that's just one snowflake's, you know, interpretation of it. Power is, to get back to the physics, power is, it's like saying God is, it's like saying I am. We can define it forever, but either there's non-manifestation or there's manifestation. Manifestation is power. Given that we are this condensed on a physical level matter, that's incredible power physically. Given that we are little sparks, we're holographic expressions of divinity. In that sense, just like every cell in your body has the DNA for the entire Janie. You could scrape off, if we could clone, we could scrape off a liver cell or a skin cell or an eyeball cell and basically get a Janie. All the information is in each part. It's information and energetics and knowing and wisdom, all the being and even the non-being, the pure potentiality of God, divinity of everything is in each little cell. So you are a cell in the body of the divine. I am a cell in the body of the divine. Because everybody has their zone. Everybody has their right to be as dysfunctional or as private as they want. Not that privacy and dysfunction are the same,
Right,
but those
right.
we have our autonomy, right, as individuated beings, and that's really important. Someone once told me that, you know, because when I was just beginning to be kind of in a bit of a leadership role, I was like, want to get in there and I want to flip the switch and I want to really, just flip that switch that you said. What are the moments, you asked me, what are the moments that that flipped your switch into a person who's basically, I only have one thing I want to do in my life, and I'm doing it now with you. This is it. This is what I want to do. I mean, I like to play music. I like to be with my dog. I like to go for a run. There's a lot of things I like to do, but in terms of power, passion, and purpose, this is it. This is what has been discovered, revealed for me for now. So I was saying that I wanted to get in and flip the switch, right? In people, and someone who was a bit of a mentor at that time to me, he said, that's dark. You don't flip people's switch. What you do is you offer and you set examples and you radiate energy. He didn't say that, but it's what I've come to understand. And he's right. He's right. It's not my place to go in and flip your switch. It's my place to simply be closer and more unified and expressive of the essential love that we share. And then you make your choice. So here we are, Janie and Anthony here. And I think we have a common purpose in that what we want to do is we want to help people come to the place where they decide, I'm going to flip my switch. I don't want to live. There is another way. Now we're fighting centuries, and centuries are condensing because time, like when I didn't have a cell phone when I was a kid, you know what I mean? So my son, who's 20, has a totally different reality. What's available to him and how time moves is much, much faster than ever in history. It's going faster and faster. So the programming is extremely intense, as is the possibility. The darkness has no place to hide at this moment. It's coming out. You can see how difficult and heavy things are now. At the same time, the possibility is proportional to the difficulty. Difficulty is not bad. You don't like it. As soon as you realize that what you don't like is offering you something more magnificent than you can imagine with your thinking mind, is a liberation. It's a liberation. Once you realize nothing bad can happen to Janie, nothing bad can happen to Anthony. It can't. A lot of things I don't like. The two biggest things that have happened to me in the last 3 or 4 years came out of my making a decision, praying with enough sincerity to go forward no matter what. And if I'd known what I was asking for, I wouldn't have done it because it was too painful. And thank you, God, for that experience, because what it did was it brought me through. It helped me drop some of the conditioning and bring me through some of the things, the darknesses and the pain and the blocks that keep me from my joy, from my power, my passion, my purpose. Now, it's really important, Janie, that we help people understand that power, passion, and purpose are tools. They don't contain light. They don't contain beauty. They don't contain love. They contain the seeds of whatever it is that power, passion, and purpose is directed at. We're talking about intentionality, about dedication of one's life energy. Every moment of my life, I am paying attention. I have one currency, it's attention, and I pay it.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's a soundbite right there. That's the one. Seriously, it's like really when you start paying attention, pun intended, to the words that you're saying and the way we use words in our culture and our world, it really starts to open your eyes to so many things. And I love that you see attention as gold. And I do feel that being able to have all of your senses all here, your mind, body, spirit, soul, sort of in one place, all cohesive, is being present. It's it's at a 10, it's like you're paying attention so much that you are just in a state of presence. And that's where you really find peace too, right? Yeah. Because it's having the power to be able to intentionally do that with thyself. And when it becomes a practice. And that's one of the things you were saying. It's like, it's something that you do every day. I don't know if you want to touch a little bit on that.
Yes, a practice. I think you touched something crucial, which is nobody's going to do it for you. You're going to get you're going to go to church and the priest is going to say, here's what you do. It isn't going to work. You're going to go to the guru, and the guru. That's why a lot of people are bouncing spiritually from place to place, because you bounce onto my thing, for example, and I sit there and I talk for an hour, and I'm in a place where I'm just channeling divine, because everybody can do that. And people are feeling amazing, and then it doesn't stick. And at the end of every single thing that I do, if I do something, or if I do a video, whatever, it's always, look, independence. You are. Jesus said, what I do, the least of among you shall do more, or can do more. I don't know how he put it. But the point is I am the light of God. That's not, this misappropriation of divinity to say, there's God and all of us are. I mean, yesterday I was with a person, I love this person, and she's got Catholic indoctrination, and she's and the prayer, forgive me, I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, because this same person, I had her statue of Mary in my house for a little bit because she didn't have a place to put it while she was setting up her new house. So I had it, and I just realized that I was doing Munaiki, which is this indigenous South American ceremony, and I had the statue in the circle, and I was like, my God, this is brilliant. It's a beautiful statue of a beautiful young woman, and I'm not sure why her eyes are always cast down. Why is that? Anyway, some idea of humility. Anyway, because she's female, it's the mother. So, but whatever. But the feeling of this thing, the essence of it, the mother, the cosmic divine mother. There was this beauty. It's just a statue, right? But it was beautiful, right? So, but the mother, there's something about Mother Mary. Pray for us sinners, and I just said I can't be on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
As a sinner, or to be conditioned as you need to follow this guru, whatever it is. You said practice. You said daily. Did you say practice?
Yeah, I said practice, and it's something that we practice daily, like to be mindful and to pay attention to thyself on a regular basis, like paying attention to your thoughts, your words, your actions, your choices. All of that takes effort.
It takes absolute effort, and at the beginning it seems like work, and at the end, as you move on, it becomes like breathing air. You go like, if you don't do it too long, you start to realize you're not breathing, and you feel that feeling of almost desperation for air. You want to live. The practice that you're talking about is mindfulness and meditation. Those are the only two I know. Well, there's a million ways to do it. It could be Tai Chi, or it could be yoga. If it's the essence of those things, people are now presented with yoga to lose weight. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. However, the essence of yoga, if you're losing weight, let me slow down.
Sure.
If you're losing weight mindfully with the essence of the asanas or the yoga, then you're solving two problems with one equation, right? In other words, yoga is about bringing you into, now, why are we bringing ourselves into presence? Because that which is conditioned into us is time bound. We're conditioned, the conditioning is so connected to time that if we can be here as soon as one is truly present, what we don't have that word, you have it, power, passion, but presence is three things. Presence is, remember, I don't know, in school, when I was a kid, they'd say, Tony, they used to call me Tony. Tony, and I go, present, right? So it's a position in space. Present is a time. It's not the future, it's not the past. Presence is also attention, to be present. I'm present. I'm present with Janie now. See, I had to slow down. As soon as I became present, I slowed down automatically, because the racing is a conditioned thing. I'm racing to get somewhere. And all that I'm doing in racing is moving away from where I am, and where I am is everything. Where I am is the place where Anthony disappears and God gets to be. And when I'm out of my own way and God is here, I'm with joy, I'm with purpose, passion, presence, and I'm also, these things have been, in other words, I grew up and they told me that I needed a certain kind of a car or a house or a woman or a man or whatever it is, these series of external things that I'm supposed to be attaining. In attainment will come fulfillment. I will get, and thereby, and I grew up with atheists, which was a real advantage in that I didn't come to any of the spirituality with any preconceptions. I came with and I still have a very strong skepticism about a lot of it, which is kind of for me, I think that's been a bit of an advantage. But my parents are very political, and they're Christians of the heart, meaning they love and they want to serve and they want to emancipate everyone. However, my training was on top of the cultural training, which is to attain. It was that my fulfillment comes in service, in fixing the world. I will fix the world, and in fixing the world, I will be good. That I will be a good boy, a good man, and I will feel good. It wasn't even put that way, but that was the implication. And then, of course, the culture is telling me if I can get on stage at Madison Square Garden and have 25,000 people screaming my name, I'm happy. Or if I could get a car that's a little shinier and people are watching me go down the street or whatever it is. Now, I never had those real inclinations, but I did always have the drive to be fulfilled by fixing or changing or attaining, by having something external appear or arrive or be or losing something outside. Okay.
God, that was so good. Just so much stuff. I was like, I got to get a little post-it note, write some words down because I want to touch on so many different things that you said. Oh my gosh. I wanted to touch on sinner and sin. And yes, if you really look at the meaning of that word, it means to miss the mark. And
Yes.
that's what it means. And
Well,
go ahead. Go ahead.
no, you go with that.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Yeah. So it means
Yeah.
to miss the mark. And if
Yeah.
we look at the mark as being like a target, right? Like an archer or something, the
Yeah.
center of the bullseye for me is like love, like
Yeah.
unconditional love. And there's
Yeah.
these virtues, you've listed a lot of them, and characteristics. I don't even know if it's characteristics, but like, because a person, there's like, we always say, oh, they have got good character, or like, oh, it says something about their character, which funny because it ties into the idea of we're here having a play and there's a story here and everybody's playing characters, right? So there's all these ties to words. But going back to character, there are virtues
Yes.
that when we live by them, tenets, there's universal laws that when you will say abide by them, and some people don't really like that, but we'll just say like adhere, right, to them. And we have free will. We can adhere to them. And when we do, and when we act and come from a place of love and are mindful of our thoughts and things, and this doesn't mean that you're always hitting the bullseye every single time, but the goal and the point is to be striving for that. And you mentioned the word effort. There's a lot of effort that it takes to sort of, rise above your traumas and your programmings and your conditionings and blah, blah, blah. But then it goes from effort to effortlessness, because then it becomes your new default.
Yes.
And for everybody it's different on how they arrive there. But touching back on sinner, a lot of religions, there's fear and guilt and shame woven into that story that then impacts our psyche. And as a coach or somebody that deals with trauma, who's went through their own transmutation, purification, integration process, and still every day refining myself and everything, I know how it is. Those emotions, if you look at the emotional frequency chart, every emotion has like a pulse to it, and it creates like a neurochemical reaction in us. And then we get very used to it. It's like a form of addiction. And I always say the real addiction here is like we're addicted to pain and suffering and stress, and we don't even know it. That's the sad thing, because we inherently have this deep embedded idea that we are bad, and what we need is something outside of us. And so I wanted to just touch on that. So I am in agreement with that. I understand why it's there, but there really is a cloak on a lot of these major texts, especially the major religions. And anytime you look at a world where they're using God as a reason to be murdering people, or like belief structures on what God is and fighting about which God is real, it's sad. It's a desecration of life. But anyway, going back to light. So in the Bible, right, if we go back to the Bible, it says God is love and God is light. And in meditation, I heard God, right, creator, source, whatever you want to call it, I am, quantum fields, I don't really care, 0 point, neutron, doesn't matter to me, Jesus, Buddha. It was like, it would speak to me in acronyms, and it gave me LIGHT is living in God's harmonious truth. And being that God had such a heavy like story around it, very judgmental, almost like a narcissistic father, really, they gave God all these human traits like vengeance and jealousy. And it's like, what in the world? Is he love or is he not? I'm sorry. And why is it that we're supposed to fear our creator exactly? They tie it to respect, which is
weird.
Go ahead.
No, it's weird. It's what you're saying is making perfect sense. And this is all tying into what we were speaking about earlier about conditioning and about, look, the power, the passion, and the purpose of these organized religions is often very intense. And the power, passion, and purpose is directed very much at control of humanity, physical control, rather than liberation. And you control people with fear. Just a quick thing about what you're talking about before about the thing that where you'll have a suffering that creates a neurochemistry that you get addicted to. Also, the neurochemistry also, it's a loop. And what happens in the loop, because we're humans, is we create identities, and then an identity around this suffering, around this trauma, whatever it is. You can be a victor, you can be a winner or a loser, you can be an exploiter, an exploitee. It doesn't matter what you are, as long as I am something that I can define myself as relative to other people, then somehow we think we've got something safe to hold on to. Now, what you were saying about sin, and there is an evolution. There's also a devolution. There's evolution and devolution happening simultaneously. And if you look at, we'll just stay with the Abrahamic tradition. There's like the Old Testament, and that God is exactly the one you're describing. That guy, it's a guy, it's a boy, it's a man. That man is very much like a Roman or a Greek god of those times, very much filled with human foibles and problems, jealousy and vengeance and anger. Pretty weird, right? Not even very much love in that Old Testament. Then comes Jesus, and he says, I am the Son of Man, meaning Janie is the daughter of God, right? It's just all that means. And by the way, God of the Jews, just a people, there's like 600 and something rules for Jews and 10 commandments for population in the Old Testament. Then comes Jesus, he popularized the Catholic Church. Catholic means universal. It's a beautiful word. Catholic means universal. So we're going to universalize God, and everybody gets to be, and God is love for everybody. And we're like, wow, that's pretty amazing. That's a revolution. We got to torture this guy to death. That can't be allowed. That can't be allowed. So they torture this poor man to death, right? Okay. Theoretically, whether it happened or not, I don't really care. It's the energetics of the story that matters. Like you said, Buddha, George, Peter, universal source, none of that matters. What we're interested in here is what it is that Janie and Anthony and whoever it is that's listening can use in their lives to improve, to feel better, to live more purposeful, positively purposeful lives. So then comes, and I don't do this, this is the only thing, Course in Miracles. Look, the New Testament has a series of, again, it's a male God. God is very much about love, and yet there's still some brimstone and fire. There's still some homophobia. There's still some judgment. There's still a lot of stuff going on that's not, and look, Janie's just some woman, 2022. She can't be less developed than the totality of God, right? So if we're believing this stuff, God's got to be at least as good as us, right? And I wouldn't have those judgments if I could create my universe, right? So God's better than that, I hope. I mean, at least the God that I experience is phenomenally, and that you experience. So the Course in Miracles came along, and it's very much in the Abrahamic tradition because it's Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It's Jesus, Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit, and the Father, the God, right? The whatever, the tri, whatever that is. So what the Course in Miracles has done, I encourage anybody who's struggling with any kind of leftover or even working through the guilt you spoke of and the shame and the of these organized traditions in the Western tradition, and probably the Quran as well, which I'm not familiar with, but you can be sure there's some, because that's a pretty feudal, there's some feudal stuff in there. So from the little that I know. Now, again, if you speak to a Muslim, you say, that's got like anything on the ball, and you say, I don't know too much about Allah, but is Allah love? They say, oh, absolutely. And you're like, damn, we're on the same page. There's nothing to ever argue about if we're in the essence of truth. However, religion is rarely about the essence of truth. So the Course in Miracles has taken everything out, and this gets to your thing, which I was going to address, but it's good the way Spirit moves us in a circle. Course in Miracles speaks of love and fear. There's love, which is truth, and fear, which is simply a bad dream. It's not real. However, we experience it. When you're in a bad dream, it sure as heck feels bad. You don't like it. So, and I don't like it. So it also speaks of sin as a complete failure to understand what's happening. In other words, the word sin is, as you said, originally, now there's originally the truth of the people that came up with these things, they were in deep connection to spirit. And then of course, you take the words of Jesus, and all of a sudden, three generations later, let alone 2,000 years later, it's been perverted and twisted and used, and it's all lost, which you touched on a moment ago. So sin is simply a misnomer for error. Now you spoke of hitting the target. Now I shoot my arrow. Let's say I'm shooting for God. I'm shooting for love. I'm shooting for one of these higher cardinal virtues, unopposed virtues. So I'm shooting for it, and I miss. I hurt my sister. I mistreat my mother. I'm not nice to the dog. So I do something that my higher self would prefer that I was living in a different vibration. I shouldn't do it. That's the judgment, right? But let's just put it there. Now, shouldn't do it is sin. Sin is a thing. Sin is a mark in the, forget about the original meaning and the meaning I'm getting to. Sin in common parlance is bad. There's a book of life and we mark an X, sin, and then comes Judgment Day and they open the book and there's like a lot of X's there, right? We all make a lot of mistakes. But the Course in Miracles and the way I've come to absolutely know that it is, I know there is no such thing as sin the way we see it. Sin is, as you spoke of, it's missing the mark. I would call it error. Error.
I love the error, and we get to course correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, love is expansive and inclusive, and fear is contracting and exclusive and dividing. Once we see illness, in other words, if you're in court and you killed someone, and your lawyer says, well, Your Honor, when she killed that person, she was mentally, she was off her meds, she was crazy, she was insane. It's a defense. Then they don't put you in prison, they put you someplace. So the way I know it is, I know this is a fact because I haven't seen any exceptions. There may be exceptions. But what I know in terms of unlimited, uncontroverted experience is that dysfunction, hurting other people, hurting self, all these things come from the drowning person who they will pull you down, not out of a desire to drown you, out of a desire to survive. They are panicking. They're panicking. So if someone is sick and doesn't understand where their joy, purpose, we're talking about the holiness of, because if you want to be happy, if you take power, passion, and purpose, and you inject it with the intentionality of love, and you do the practice that you were speaking of, which is another magnificent P word, and you do the daily practice, meaning you get to the point where you're what other people would see as obsessed, but you would simply see internally as dedicated, as now on a path that will lead you to where it is that your soul's calling. If you are doing that, then you're healing and you're moving towards healing others. Now, when you're not doing that, the default and the programming around you, the atmosphere, the culture, remember, even if you're in a cave, it's still hitting you. It's hitting you. It hits you more directly because every person who's watching this, I guarantee you, is spending between 3 and 12 hours a day on their telephone. It's just the way it is. Be careful what you consume. Don't consume pornography. It's just not, I mean, not because it's bad, because it's poisoning you. You can't do it and be happy. It's not going to bring you to where you, and the dysfunction survives by giving you little moments of pleasure. It gives you little moments of pleasure. You press the button, someone likes, another, or the orgasm, or whatever it is. And then afterwards, notice you're empty. And if you don't get more of it, it's always calling for more, slightly like cocaine. And there's no difference between cocaine and the like and the pornography. All these things are hitting buttons that give you something that leaves you lower down in the long run. But what I'm trying to say, much more important, is that illness, missing the mark, the sin, is not a blemish on your soul. What it is, and the pain that comes, the instant karma that comes, the suffering. And you may get a charge out of dominating someone and winning, in the stock market or in sex or however you're winning. You may get that charge. But the fact that if you're paying attention, which you won't be, the moment you start paying attention is the moment liberation. This all functions on unconsciousness. The second you begin to pay attention to your inner world, really pay it, and with any honesty, saying, wait a minute, I really don't like the way I feel. Instead of just running to that thing that gives you that second of, as soon as you start to realize that, the fact that there's an error, that there's this instant karma, that you're functioning out of your own pain, you start to identify it and see it with mindfulness, with just a second, and it'll come in glimpses, and you'll see it more and more as you start to. And then, as you said, you asked me that question, when did the switch flip? It will flip. It will flip for everybody. That's something I think I know, but I can't say that I know because I don't have that depth of knowledge or experience yet. But I have this strong knowing, I can't say that I know, that everyone flips the switch. It's just a matter of whether it's now. How much time will you create before you stop and live in the timelessness of your own perfection? But just to complete thought, Janie, just to complete this thought, The illness, the instant karma, this thing is all opportunity. In other words, if you're able to pay, if one is able to pay attention and see that when I mistreat, when I win in the game of sickness, my illness makes me feel bad. And if I fall into the programming, the conditioning of it's sin, then where's my out? There's no out. All I can say is, I'm a bad person. Let me just go and get some more of this so I can escape the pain that's just going to come. It's going to be hell, or I'm in hell, or whatever it is. Once we understand that it's a missing of the mark, it's a simple error. When the little girl is doing her homework, 2 + 2 is 7, 2 + 2 is 7. After she does that for 3 hours, you're like, it's okay, honey, and you give her a hug. And you say, we'll do it tomorrow. She just can't get it today. It's a mistake. There's no sin. There's no sin. You hurt 50 people desperately. You caused a war. You killed millions of people. I get it. I get it. I get it. We're not saying that you can continue to do that. Step 1, remove them. But step 2, heal, my love. Heal. Heal. You're just in pain. You can't do this without being in pain. The karma is instant. If you can see who you really are, if you can begin to start detaching yourself from the unbelievable, probably generational and certainly personal trauma that's brought you to this place, you can live a better life. You can live a place where you're in joy with others, in joy with yourself. And so what you said is just so crucial, that people begin to see that there's nothing but love and error. There's error, and an error means, and responsibility, which is the opposite of blame. Blame says that I have something on my soul, and maybe you can forgive me or I can forgive myself, but I still did it. No. You didn't do anything. You may have done something that caused terrible consequences. It happened, yes. And this is, here you are now. Now is every moment is a new opportunity to begin to reveal, to shed that which it, nobody, it's not, now I may be wrong, but I don't believe that there is any evil anywhere. I believe there is evil that happens out of darkness and ignorance, but I have yet to, and this is a conversation I've had with a lot of people. Evil children, people that are born evil. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. And I can't say that it's not true because I'm not omnipotent. I don't have that access to information. In my experience, there's a cleanliness of arrival and a cleanness and a newness and an absolute innocence and potentiality for holiness in purpose, power, and passion, a life of holy purpose, power. Holy, as you said when we were speaking before, WHO, whole, entire, and HOLY, meaning sacred. The entire thing and the sacredness. So given that we have, as far as, and everybody that's here is drawn, there is no, don't believe anything your mind tells you to begin with, number one. Don't believe anything.
You should discern it, like discern your thoughts, as they come through.
Absolutely. Discern them and not judge, like anything, suffering comes from resistance, not from conditions. But if you just realize that this is simply an experience, it's not the totality of reality, it's simply what's happening. And as you relax, you'll find the suffering, you may feel pain, but the suffering attached to it diminishes in proportion to your non-resistance. Mm-hmm. So we're not trying to resist what it is that's happening within us. We're not trying to fight the fact that we feel guilty or any of these things. But what we do is, the usefulness of the words and this thing here that we're doing is we're trying to pacify this raging thing and train this raging thing to at least not completely destroy our lives. Because most of us are living in a mental hell, a nonstop chattering, self-judgmental and outwardly judgmental place of nonstop pain.
Nonstop.
It's just okay.
It's like what you're talking about is like, again, going back to mindfulness, it's being aware and noticing what you're feeling and the emotions and the thoughts you're feeling. Allow them to be not accept as like own them as true, but accept why it is that this is coursing through you, and really being able to use the breath to be able to move it and process it properly.
That's wonderful. Yes. The surrender that we're speaking of and the acceptance is simply being with absolute truth, being with truth. That's number one. Now, the flip side of it and the complement, in no way is this at all taking away from our surrender, our acceptance, is the fact that we have full intentionality to change reality. In your line of work, I just came to me recently. It's a formulation that allows people to be fully surrendered, in that they're not surrendering their intentionality to change reality. In other words, I am with a dysfunctional relationship with this person in my life. Simple truth. I accept the truth of it while maintaining the 100% acceptance of the fact that it is, with 100% intentionality to heal the relationship. They're not mutually exclusive, they're mutually reinforcing. And therein I get to be free. The other thing is Jane, I know we're getting late. We'll
Sure,
stop.
it's good. It's okay. Great.
The thing you were saying before about we were speaking about, I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but you were speaking about surrender and being in the moment and working with what comes up and all this kind of thing. What's come up to me very, very recently, and it's come up recently because it needs to be here for us, is that there is a power and an autonomy that each individual carries that is, I mean, I spent my whole life out of being a nice guy on the positive side, being a coward on the negative side, avoiding conflict. It's a simple truth, it's a fact. And in the last 4 years, I came into 3 situations. I'm in the middle of the third one now, extremely difficult. And well, I could tell you what it was. It was 2 weeks ago yesterday. I realized, now the Course in Miracles speaks, and this has been very influential for me, I'm speaking of it again, speaks about not having defenses or offenses, not being engaged in the concept of there being defense or offense. That's just the illusion. So that's been kind of feeding my nice guy coward. I realized 2 weeks ago, I am a warrior. What does a warrior mean? A warrior is someone who, in the face of adversity, owns the truth of their space and their intentionality and who they are. So in this place where you're talking about 100%, you're correct. This dysfunction is coming up and you're allowing it 100%, experiencing it 100%. You're speaking about breath work. That's a magnificent way to work through it. At the same time, never forget, you are powerful beyond, you don't even have the slightest inkling of how powerful you are.
I mean, I know, like, when you think about, we have about 50 trillion cells in our body, and within each one, there's about 100 trillion atoms or something like that in each one. That's like each one is carrying all of that power. We definitely have power. And even in those moments when you've been practicing and flexing the understanding of duality, non-duality, and you're able to literally be in both worlds simultaneously.
Yeah,
I'm in my divinity and in my humanity. Like, I'm feeling my mind, brain, body, nervous system having a reaction or responding, right,
yeah,
physically to
yes,
something. And while at the same time being able to kind of see through the illusion and the delusion, and knowing that I'm well, even though my body's feeling like it's not safe and something bad is happening. The
yeah.
way we speak to ourselves and the way we work with these physiological responses is also like empowerment too, you know?
Everything, Janie. That's for me, you just literally just encapsulated the goal, if I was to say the purpose individually of life, what I want to be just where you're talking about. That's what I'm trying to. I'm trying to be in a place where, no matter what's happening circumstantially, which includes my body and my mind and my emotions, there is the knowing, the experiential knowing that this is the amphitheater, and the people come and the people go. This band comes, that band leaves, the theater troupe comes, all the things happen. And yet the amphitheater remains this magnificent open space of potential possibility and change. To be in contact with that amphitheater self, the God self, the divine self, while also being fully in honoring, because we're here for a reason. But you're
Exactly.
not. We
And
belong here.
I actually got to a place in my journey thinking, oh, how do I eradicate the ego? How do I live above my nervous system just all the time? And then I realized that's not really the point. It's about becoming the optimal observer of self, right? Sort of that God perspective over the personalized, individualistic experience that I'm having, that is wanting to make it good or bad, like what you were saying before. And even now I realize that when there is some weird glitch or something in the system that's causing some kind of discomfort or disappointment, there is something deeper. I know how to dive deep, and I know how to go high and vast to see things from micro, macro really fast. And that's, again, been a process. And I can see how this could be for me. And as uncomfortable as it all is, I know there's a solution to it. There's two other things I wanted to touch on really quick. You said something about being present, and when we're little, we're like, oh, present and stuff. And it's like being able to be in presence and be present. It brings you a certain level of peace. That in itself is a gift, and it's a gift that we should all give ourselves. And we are a gift. So it's cute when you were like, oh, I'm present. And it's like, yep, you are a present. We should be reminding kids of that all the time. And then you talked about being of service. And we are here. Well, first, really quick, A Course in Miracles. I went through the Course in Miracles. I love it. I can't say enough. It opened my mind, my heart, and my everything when it came to judgment and sin. So I'm right there with you on ACIM, and that we are here to be not only here to love and care for ourselves, but we are here to understand what that looks like with healthy boundaries, and then be able to extend that to others. And we are here to be of service to others. And what you do unto others, you do unto yourself. And you were talking about immediately when somebody does something, it's already happening to you cellularly, because we're connected via light. And that's why I love the concept of light, and all of us really getting curious about what that is and what light and love actually is, knowing that that is what we are. And we are born innocent, and they dirtied up. They've made us feel like, oh, you're born a sinner. The body's a sin. We should be ashamed of our body. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Wasn't it the creator that designed this miraculous thing in the first place? And isn't it creator that designed the things that it's going to need? And that's why it's really important for us to integrate our spirituality, the light self and the soul self, with the human self. Otherwise, those things will get the better of us. Everything is about balance and harmony. Really, that's what it's about.
Absolutely. And just to kind of tie some of the things you've been saying together, you were speaking about relationship, and I think it's really because people that come here, there's two general fall offs. You either fall off on the narcissistic side, or you fall off on the empathic side. The people that are drawn here are going to be on the empathic, sympathetic, compassionate side. There's a trap that we all have where we think that we're supposed to give and we're supposed to take care of other people. It's not untrue, and the focus is always on the self. And let's not be confused about why we're here. We're here to first and foremost fulfill and express. And in fulfillment and expression, if it's with holiness, W and H, if we're with holiness, sacredness, and completion, then it will by definition be of service. It will by definition be healing to others. You don't have to worry about that. It's not my job to, I am healing. We are healing each other simply by the fact that you've spent the last 2,000 hours in meditation over the last 15 years, and I've spent that 2,000 hours, and you have so just by being together, just by being on the planet, you're healing me. You know what I mean? You don't need to spend, and how that looks. I didn't set out to be on this thing. I'm actually letting a lot of my spiritual projects go, because I'm realizing that a lot of it was mixed with physical ambition, spiritual egotism, right? And
I hear you.
Now that I'm letting that go to a great extent, a lot of things are starting to fall away. In other words, as I focus on the truth is, look, I'm brilliant beyond your capacity to understand, as are you. The brilliance the power path that we embody is so incredible that when the layers and the layers of clothing, of veils and the Vaseline and the dirt and the dust and the generations, when that stuff starts to fall away, what's revealed is this thing that it knows how to express. It knows how to write a song. It knows how to do what's absolutely right in a situation, and those other aspects of the situation will do what they need to do or not do. And that is not this particular little tiny piece of its job. All that my job is just to get out of my own way. I don't have to heal anything else. And then as I do that, Janie reaches out and says, let's go on P3. And now this has its productivity. Everything will happen of its own. Anything you put your time and attention on will grow and blossom, including dysfunction. So use your attention wisely.
There's a level of care that we haven't had for ourselves and each other for quite some time. I feel like it's time for us to put that civil back in civilization, I say. And in order for us to be able to do that, we have to journey within. And
Yes.
when you do that work on yourself, you're just automatically empowering and giving other people permission. Whether you share your story or not, just know that you doing these internal changes and healing your traumas and all of this stuff, it really is making a big difference, not just in your life, but on the planet. So I just want to thank everybody for that. And of course, are there any last words that you have? You have just been a total joy. Speaking of joy, and I like that the word joy is an enjoyment, and
Yeah.
to return to our joy and know what that is for ourselves will allow us to enjoy life much more. And I can't thank you enough for everything you've done to help other people understand that, to better understand that, just by being a beacon of light. So any last words that you would like to share before we wrap up this beautiful episode, and of course let people know how they can connect with you?
Yeah, really what I want people to, if there's a takeaway, the takeaway is that there's nothing outside of you that's been offered or spoken of here. If anything it has touched you in any way, it has only come from yourself. In other words, there's no need for that which is ego. Now, ego, as Janie spoke of, we need to make friends with it. It's not going to go away while we're here. So it's okay to have some ego. However, here in this space that Janie's created for us, what we're doing is we're transcending ego, that we may put it in its place, that it may be simply the brilliance of the snowflake and the enjoyment of my snowflake being like this, and I wrote this song and she painted that picture and he cooked that dish and whatever it is that happened. So just to have you understand that which is the power, potential, beauty, all of the magnificence that, and if you've been here for long enough, you've tasted, because you felt her passion, you felt my passion. And these are not coming from outside of you. There is no outside of you. You have the power. You have the ability to do, but no one can do it for you. You have to. This is God speaking to you, not from this guy, from this thing that's beating just a foot below your own eyes. This thing that's beating is generating this message for you. And it's telling you, you are divine and you can experience divinity. And when you experience it, you feel so good. That's what you want to feel good. And Janie wants you to feel good, and I want you to feel good, because we are you. That's what being embodied is. So please, if there's any takeaway, you are the indwelling divine. It's there, it's yours. Just be, allow yourself, explore. Janie said inner work. Do it, go within. It's there underneath the fear. Underneath, you're gonna have to go through it. There's no around, there's no over, you can't sidestep it, you can't fool it. Right through it. It's not real. It's just a bunch of ideas. It's gone. At this moment, free.
And that's the goal, liberation. Man, it's been such a pleasure hanging out with you.
I forgot to tell you where you can find, there's probably 1,000 videos by now on YouTube, but there's a lot of material, True Diamond Heart, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Yes,
thank you, Janie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for supporting the mindfulness movement here at Rise Above TV. Your likes, shares, and follows are greatly appreciated because they help spread the love. Subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels for more mindful content. Tune in next week to meet another individual who's tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. Till next time, peace be in us.